Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate being here. Like was said earlier, I really hope the goal of this thing is to get something out of this that you can take with you to your programs. Not everything's a great fit for everybody. Hopefully, the topic itself leads you a little bit to something that you think you might use or philosophically y'all agree with. Hopefully, there's some defensive guys on here as well to try to poke holes and see what hopefully we can help you defend some of this stuff too. Um, I think above all, that's why we want to really make these questions available to you. So if something comes up, please, I got it pulled up on the screen up there. If you see me looking off, I'm just checking to make sure if anything came up. We really do want to make this as interactive as possible as you can in Zoom. I've done Glacier before, but it was in person. So this is a little bit new to me, but hopefully we can get something that everybody can use. So, um, as the joke was made earlier, that we are an air raid school. We're proud to be an air raid school, but we do think that it's important to run the ball. So I think that this topic's pretty interesting because it's a little, I'd say it uses one of the popular terms of our game right now in RPO. And interestingly enough, the strengths and weaknesses of what it's provided us. Um, and I think, we might have some unpopular opinions coming from me here at some point. So certainly get a chance to use some of this that you see fit. And then certainly poke holes for that as well. So this is how we use play action pass versus RPO in our building. And what's interesting enough to start is we don't actually use the term RPO at all. I think we've lost track a little bit of what the original purpose of RPOs were and what the purpose of RPOs are for us. So the original purpose of RPOs was a simple post snap solution for bad run boxes. So it just allowed play callers to have easy outs when a defense outnumbered you in the box and you didn't really have great angles or great numbers. And so in our experience, we had a lot of gray area in our post snap reads, which was creating a lot of lack of efficiency. So I think that in our answer to that was offense is really cyclical and ever changing. And so don't be too stubborn to sort of change with it was our philosophy. And those post snap reads get a little bit harder when they're farther away from the ball. Anytime you ask a young man, a quarterback in that instance, to read a C gap, it's really, our read is, does that front side shoulder close? If it does, then we want you to pull the ball and move on to the next read of just a traditional zone read concept. But when you're reading a B gap defender or Sam Backer from depth, defense has gotten really good at trying to play in between the two. So we got into a lot of gray area, not only on grading quarterbacks, which we think is really important. We're trying to, narrow down who our quarterback next season is going to be, and being able to grade them on every snap. It led to a lot of gray area, which made us uncomfortable. And so we didn't love what that provided us. So I know it's sounding a little bit anti-RPO, but it's just finding exactly where that fit for us. So we defined it in two different worlds. That's the difference between a relief and an RPO. For us, reliefs are just pre-snap throws for a quarterback versus a bad run look. Whether that's more guys in and around the box than we can block, or if we have good matchups on the perimeter. But I think it's important to note that for many things, RPOs are run pass option, and we have PROs in our offense, which are pass run options. But you're calling RPO because you want to run the football. Ultimately, as a play caller, I'm calling run because I like run in that down. I mean, we spend all week preparing in game planning for moments like these. And then when you get in a chance and the quarterback comes to the sideline after pulling a ball that you see on tape from the end zone that would have been an explosive run, that got frustrating a little bit. So we decided to eliminate that from our gray area altogether and define it as relief. So it's a pre-snap decision based off of box numbers. And then when we're outnumbered, we give a quarterback a small menu of run checks. So we can go run to run or pass to run or run to pass. And we give the quarterback the ability to check six-man protection or to a better run call if we have something that is a really, really bad box. So if the relief doesn't fix the problem, then let's call a better play. Rather than asking for gray area in the quarterback post-snap, let's solve it pre-snap. And we wanted to run the ball. So we make sure that the call dictates that. If we want to run the ball and we have reliefs on the perimeter, we can easily cancel those just by calling a scheme that blocks up the perimeter, which is a good thing as well. And then on the previous slide, we talked about wanting to run the ball and that offenses are always cyclical, just like defenses. I think anytime you see offenses get small, you'll see defenses respond back around. and then offenses will get big and the defenses will get big. And same thing kind of goes for this. I mean, play action pass has been a big part of the game of football for a long time. And then I think these RPOs were kind of created to try to morph two worlds. And we got a little bit uncomfortable with what that created. So the gray area within post-snap RPOs. And so we found that when a quarterback pulls a run, okay, it had a lot of missed opportunities on gash runs. I mean, so frequently you see the end zone shot and a guy pulls it and throws a hitch for a gain of 3, and you think that run might have gotten on the safety pretty quick. And again, this is probably surprising given the air raid background that we had and we're proud of, but it also defenses have gotten really good at pre-snap disguising defenses. So defenses are really good at changing who's in the fit based off of what they're doing on the back end. And a lot of the times, if the quarterback's eyes are in the wrong place, you're still handing the ball off into free unblocked defenders. And that's something that got frustrating and led to, again, more inefficiency. And then the quarterback gets caught with the ball. So let's say there's gray area, you're reading a B-gap defender, and we got tapes to show this, and he pulls the ball. He's reading the Sam backer who's fitting the B-gap or, wherever his eye should be on that play. And he retraces just enough and he gets caught with the ball because of that RPO is no longer good. So then let's say he tries to scramble around or make a play or whatever it may be and ends up throwing, you get ineligible downfields. And you get tons of sacks due to lack of protection with your front block and run. And it can lead to turnovers due to forced throws because they know those two things. So once they pull the ball, they're forced to try to fit it into a window that's not particularly great. So again, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's really the difference between reading first and second level defenders. So, a 5 technique is black and white. That read is very clear as you're staring at it. And all of us on this call, read 5 techniques very frequently. But when you're reading second level defenders, which, so many RPOs do, there is a little bit of gray area, whether it's a nickel Sam or a boundary safety or whoever it is adding to the fit. There was a lot of gray area there. So that's something that we talked about. And then the positives of play action pass. There's no gray area. Okay, that's something that's very clear. We're calling pass because as the play caller, we want to throw the football, and we like to throw the football in the air raid. So don't try to make the kids bail you out. If you want to call pass. And it actually gives you a better pull of second level defenders, in my opinion. We do a lot of this off of gap scheme. And so frequently that's really hard on second level defenders, linebackers, boundary safeties, wherever you may fit. When they see pullers, they're really pretty excited to go change the math to that side of that puller and really opens up opportunities in the middle of the field. There's no missed run opportunities. I got some clips on here where there might be some people on the call that would say, I'd probably pull that and, throw that hitch or throw that, little bender slant that everybody loves. And then you look at the end zone and there's some explosive runs that would have been missed by doing that. And then the ability to get to third progression reads. This is really important, y'all. I mean, when it's protected, this adds to protection of the running back. When it's protected and that first window isn't there, it allows for our quarterback to get to a second or third progression. You'll see some clips of that here. So you're not getting caught with the ball. And then lastly, you have running backs who now you can use in protection. So frequently when you pull for second level RPOs, now we can use that running back to kind of firm up the protection and send him to a certain spot. We'll talk about how we do that. And then lastly, when you're talking about game planning, this is really big for us. You're game planning your top runs, add a tag for play action, and it just marries up really easily with your top run game. So, excuse me, that's something that we really enjoyed. It adds a simplicity of game planning when you pick your top runs to naturally marry it up formationally and with run scheme. So that's our major perks. Hopefully I gave some time to people to take some pictures or to, take some notes. But then lastly, again, I think you're going to see here a little bit also a strong diversity of run scheme. So look at the various run schemes that we're using and then the play action pass that kind of fits off of it. And you'll see a lot of your favorite RPOs matched up here. So that's what I want you to look at. This first batch is going to be explosive runs, okay? That might have been missed out on if we had thrown the RPO. So we got a hitch up here to the top of the screen. And so many people are going to read one of these two. So you're either reading this or a boundary safety, okay? If he joins into the fit in that case. Frequently, those are the two popular reads that you'll see people do. for RPOs. And in this instance, we have a pretty good run box right here for a 6-man, inside zone scheme. So we get a Sam off the pressure. Look, we're calling run. It's RPO, right? And so there's a difference between a guy triggering and us being able to complete a hitch. And there's a difference between that and then that person being able to affect the run. So you see this nickel Sam here pressuring off the edge. For a lot of people, I would assume that this would be a pull read and you're throwing it out to the hitch up there at the top of the screen. Well, for us, I don't think that guy's making the play in a zone scheme to the boundary here. And because of that, we end up getting an explosive run. So you're losing out on that explosive run by picking up a post-snap pressure like this for a quick 4 or 5 yard hitch on 1st and 10. So that's something that we try to keep in mind as well. And there's a couple examples of this. I have some clips from us here this past season. Last year was our first year at Valdosta State. So there's a couple clips and then some previous stops along the way. Here's another great example. So how do we grade it? That's a big thing for us grading quarterbacks as well. We're going to grade it off of a 4-yard gain. Okay, so we have it a 4-yard rule in the quarterback room. If you're going to take the relief, again, we don't use the word RPO because we wanted to say it's truly a relief of the run game. If you're going to take that relief, it better result in a 4-yard gain. Okay, now, so frequently here, you're going to see people reading it as, all right, there's your boundary safety, there's your nickel Sam. All right, well, who is this guy in a spot that can make this play? Well, the quarterback's got to make up his mind here, okay? They're rolling weak here in cover 3. We have this hitch relief right here if we want, okay? We blocked up the front side of this one again, controlling if we want run or we want a possible relief on each one. Again, we think that this is a favorable box. This boundary safety, and then please keep in mind the D&D. We're in 3rd and 1 here. We're trying to run the ball here and get the sticks. That's why we call a run. So we don't think that this box is necessarily bad or we're particularly outnumbered. Now, if he's standing right here as a boundary safety, then that might be something that we would have a problem with, and we need to think relief, or we need to change this play to a better run play or throw the ball down the field. On 3rd and 1, probably a better run play, okay? So in this instance, we get the run. Now, this boundary safety makes contact at about 7 yards, okay, or about 6 yards. So even if he were to make that play, which schematically you have to kind of bank on, because obviously we're talking on a whiteboard at this point, then he would have still been okay. But we gain an explosive run off of it when we could have taken a 4-yard hitch to the boundary, right? So what are we really trying to achieve when we're calling run, especially in a 3rd and 1 situation? So here's another situation right here where this Sam backer, is he tight enough that people on the call would have thrown a hitch to the top of the screen? We decided to block it up, even on 1st and 10, okay? And because of it, we're calling run and we gain an explosive run. So how really dangerous are they on every call is really the question. All right, and then this is I spent previous stops. I was at the University of Houston and I was at West Virginia with Coach Holverson, and this is another one. It's a great example, okay? We're backed up. We're on the 3-yard line. And let's just imagine we're going to run a little slot fade here, but let's just say this was a hitch. We have a Sam backer here that is firmly going to send here. I think a lot of people in the room would consider that a version to throw a hitch. Instead, we are calling run with reliefs on the perimeter for bad boxes. Pre-snap, this is not a bad box in our opinion. They get them in a Tampa look, and we go 97 yards out the gate. So are you taking a 5-yard hitch, or are you really trusting the run box to run the ball? It's, again, RPO. You want to run the football. So that's a good example for us, again, as a time when, we have reliefs. We don't really want to take a hitch when we could get an explosive run like this one in a Tampa situation backed up on our own 3. So now we're going to look at some of our top play action passes. Okay, and again, I would suggest as we watch this to be pretty understanding of the diversity of run scheme that we get this off of. All right, so we're always going to send our back weak away from the run scheme, okay, which is really good in protection because frequently we like to use this in gap scheme play action. Okay, this is a 10 personnel picture, as everybody can see. and we're running guard tackle counter to the field, which is a play that, you know, whether you like it or not, versus 4 down, 3 down, is popular in 10 personnel sets. It's a great way to get gap scheme. Okay. So the running back here is completely wrong. He's trying to get back. He sells this a little bit too much, but he should be back on this 5 technique. We've also read him enough times that this defensive end isn't sure if he's being read. This is a popular run for this install. So with that, we have everybody's favorite RPO right off of it. So I'm sure a lot of people on this call love this RPO. So again, just like we're calling run to run the football, we're calling pass because we want to throw the football. So there's a couple things to note here. If you look at the Mike backer, we get all the displacement we need right here by this Mike backer, right? He sees gaps going away. He's got to fill, okay? We don't get as great of a pull from the Will backer. But what we do get is if people had this as a RPO, this probably would have been a give read, okay? Not a pull read. But since we're calling true play action pass, we have multiple spots to go with the ball, okay? We run everybody's favorite RPO right there, whether you call it a slant, whether you call it a snag, whatever you call it in your offense, okay? And then we have a hitch, a double move hitch, with him restarting his feet flat to try to time up the spacing between the two. So if he were to come off the number 1 read here, and we would be protected because the running back would be weak in that case, we could get to that. And then we have just a switch verts and stop concept out here. That would be his third progression, 3A and 3B. But again, I'd like to stress that up top. And again, we're starting with a couple practice clips just to see how it's installed. That gives us what would have been a give read into an explosive pass play because we're calling pass to throw the football. All right, so that was a 10 personnel guard tackle scheme, okay? By sending the running back weak, you really are protected versus anything that the defense can give you, okay? So in this case, if you look at the run scheme, we're running play action here off of a 20 personnel counter scheme. Okay, so a 20 personnel counter scheme where we tell our front, block whoever you would have blocked in the run scheme, just don't go downfield to do it. So if you would have doubled to a Will backer here, then protect, just don't go downfield and have your eyes on. So again, imagine if these are our 2 reads, okay, we're calling pass to pass the football. So in this instance, this clearly would have been a give read and count. But since we're calling it to pass, okay, we get an explosive pass play, all right? You tell me if you think that this is enough. That linebacker, we get the same pull as you would on RPO from the Mike linebacker. But in doing so, you get that same pull. And again, we're not doing anything out of the ordinary. Play action pass has been a large part of the game of football for a long time. We just led to more efficiency off of it because of that. And again, I'd like to reiterate, we could get to our second and third progression here because we're protected up. Here's your end zone. Again, this is not great protection, okay? But we would be sound because the back's coming back into the gap that he would be responsible for, okay? We would have 20. The ball carrier should be going weak, okay? But we have 2 backs. We like the running back to give us a little bit more there, but we should be protected up. Block who you would block, okay? Again, not super firm, but block who you would block. Just do it without going downfield. So we don't have to get the same pass game without worrying about ineligible downfield. Okay. So again, here it is in an 11 personnel set where we motion to a 10 personnel picture, and this is off of a dart scheme. So we got tackle dart here versus an odd defense. Okay. You tell me if you think these linebackers believe it's run. That's what the offensive line is graded upon. So you see how the linebackers think it's strong in run game? That gives us more than enough room, okay? Now, let's talk about it. If this is RPO, okay, you're probably reading this or this. If you're not, feel free to comment on the person that you would read there, okay? But you're probably reading one of those 2. This is a definite give read, okay? Where we're a little outnumbered now, but our eyes may be on this buck linebacker, maybe on this boundary safety, whatever. The quarterback doesn't like this. And you'll see from the end zone view, this scares him a little bit because he drops back into his coverage, okay? So then he goes from his second read, which he doesn't like, to now, since it's play action pass and we can actually protect it up, getting to his third progression, in this case, and it leads to a touchdown. Where if you get to your third progression in RPO, if you even have one, you either have an eligible downfield or you're taking a sack. And this allows us the ability to do both. So again, off of a dart scheme, look at the strong pull from the linebackers. The running back is always weak, in this case, replacing the pulling tackle. The tackle would have been on number 6 if he had committed. But you get the necessary flow, and then you can get it to your third progression and get in the end zone. All right, now we have it just off a straight run in mid zone. All right, this is a mid zone, full zone read scheme with the running back getting weak. Okay, now this is a little too much from our right guard. Okay, but again, this is all the same, everybody's favorite RPO right here. Okay, couple things to keep in mind. Would have been a give read and run, but we're calling pass to pass the football. Okay, it's 2nd and 9, and we wanted to throw the football. So we get the pull from the linebackers we need. Obviously, Will Backer here thinks that this is run. Gives us enough of a window to fit that in there like you would in RPO versus a total give read. Now, I'd like to talk about it. I think the rest of our progression is going to be open as well. And we're protected up essentially in full slide, okay? Now, I would argue the right guard here didn't get the protection call, right? He pulls up at the last second, but that's a little too much for my liking. Okay, that's a little too much. Again, there's no run scheme here. So that's a little too much for me. All right. So again, you get too much from your right guard, but you're protected up with the back weak. If this is RPO, first of all, some of you might say you like to lock the tackle, you don't want to leave the C gap open, okay? But in that instance, you would have the running back thinking he's going to carry the rock. If you look at 76, the left guard, he's going to be hanging on what would be a double to 30. He's just going to hang on and keep his eyes there, knowing that's who he's got in protection. Okay, so obviously not as firm as drop back, but it gives you what you want with all the perks of RPO, with the ability to not have ineligibles and get through more progression. Okay, again, and all of these are just game planned off of our top runs. Okay, same concept again. This one, all right, would have probably been a pull read for a lot of us. Okay, and again, this is just off of dart. Okay, this is a dart scheme versus an odd. Again, it's the same picture as you saw earlier, because that's a scheme that we like this week versus the odd defense and that buck to the boundary. So in this instance, they're going to rotate to the field after Sam pressure, giving us a cover 3 look. Doesn't like the first one, but allows us to get to the second. Okay. Now this tackle, the left tackle's got to keep going. He would have this edge in the protection. He's got to keep it moving. So again, not what we want. We shouldn't have somebody in the quarterback space there making this ball go high. But if this was RPO, would we have taken a sack? You know, the running back's going to think he's carrying the rock. We don't have this first read here because they rotate 3 into it. That's up for you to decide. In my opinion, we'd have taken a sack. But since we have a second progression to get to, we get it all. And end up getting a big one. Again, it's really easy to communicate these things, okay? It's really easy to just tag whatever you decide to tag. And I've joked with guys, you know, any single word that starts with, you know, whatever you want to describe it as, fake, you can use, you know, whatever you want, and then just tag a term to your top run game, and then you just that makes it an ease in game plan. Okay, so again, we've shown, you know, what I think is a pretty good diversity of run scheme, and then week to week has this for you. This is just insert zone. So this week we had insert zone as one of our top runs. Okay. You tell me if these linebackers think that this is run. Okay, we've called it enough times that the play action off of it gives you what you would have wanted in RPO. Okay, some would say that this Sam backer would have been a pull read. I understand that. Okay, but by him retracing into this window, he's scared our quarterback a little bit, and now he knows that he can just get to his next progression. We have no fear of ineligible downfield, really firm in protection, and gives us what we want. So you can see he goes from 1 to 2 with his eyes right there because of number 3 retracing. How many times have we pulled RPOs because of this, and then we force this ball in there and it gets tipped up in the air, intercepted? Those are the frustrations that we had in lack of efficiency. Obviously not the best ball. We put this on his chest, we think we got a big one. All right. Now, everybody's answering RPOs. All the defensive guys say, well, man coverage got you beat. Well, not if you play action pass. Okay, again, this is the same scheme where we get a little bit of an outside stem. Okay, again, this is off of our dart scheme where the running back knows he's weak. Man coverage, okay, this is zero pressure, okay, with a spy. Zero pressure. Man in the middle of the field's got the bat, okay? This is zero pressure. So again, everybody who says it, we can't have pullers because you don't think it'll hold up, that's more than enough, right? This was just the other day. More than enough for us to fit in for a big throw, okay? And still have spots to go with the ball. All right, so just a couple other clips to keep them coming for those who want to see them. All right, again, this is from a previous stop. But look at the pull you get from the wheel backer right here. Again, this is off of a guard pull scheme. We're calling pass because we want to throw the football. All right, I'd like to reiterate again, watch the top of the screen. We would have spots to go with the ball up top. We don't run a twist stop scheme there. They're just running a stop scheme. Getting explosive play. All right, here is it out of a 3-by set. Okay, here's a great example of it out of a 3-by set. We didn't like number 1 for whatever reason. Move on to number 2. Get you a first down on 2nd and 6. Call pass to throw the football. You think these linebackers think it's run? And you're firm in protection. All right, now off of the next scheme. All right, off of a GF counter scheme, which was one of our top ones, okay? This is rotated weak. This is probably another one of people's favorite RPOs. Is holding the boundary safety responsible. Little glance scheme to the boundary, okay? I would argue that if this is RPO, you have some problems here because there's some gray area. He knows that he can hold on to it a little longer because we're protected. Even if he doesn't like this glance scheme to the boundary safety, rolling down, which leads to a big one, we have, watch the top of the screen. Would have had one of these two if he had not liked the amount of rotation to the boundary safety. Why it's been a good scheme for us. I hope that somebody, hope somebody on the call can use it as they struggle a little bit with the gray areas of RPOs in their offense. Now, make no mistake about it. We talk about reliefs. If they have us significantly outnumbered in the box, the first solution is a perimeter relief. Whether it's an arc, whether it's a fast screen, something like that, whether it's a hitch, we have those, and we consider those reliefs simply off a box number. But post snap, I tried to play quarterback. I wasn't even all that good at it. So the point is, it's hard. We try to simplify the post snap as much as possible. So you can see it a little bit from the quarterback's angle here. Look at these linebackers, man. Do they believe it? They believe it. Gives us enough of a window, and they don't even know. There's no run involved in this. Straight run and play action pass. And again, I can't stress enough how much it makes the game planning component of it easier. I mean, you're marrying these things up with your top play action off your top runs. Here's a little bit of a different scheme off of it. Same deal, just using quick motion. Again, this was one of our top runs for the day. Okay, so this is just counter back to the boundary off of quick motion. Now, this is boundary safety pressures. I think a lot of people in the room said this would have been RPO. Okay, but it just firms us up in protection, okay, because you get the running backs in protection. So watching the end zone view here. You're blocking whoever you would have blocked. So we would have liked to have this guard here continue to pull for what would have been the person that he would have been pulling for in a counter picture. Okay, and then you have both backs going opposite directions because the ball carrier is going weak. Okay, so in this case, you have a guard that's not really getting great protection here, but you gain a running back. It's basically 7-man pro. Leads to a big play. Again, using it in some game settings. Again, highlighting the diversity of run. Okay, again, this is straight split zone. Everybody's got it. For most people, this is an RPO. For us, we have RPOs. We call them reliefs. If we're going to throw the ball down the field, we want to call pass. And each sets up their own, right? Again, this is the same concept that you just saw before. The linebackers and the boundary safety are pretty sure that it's run. Leads to an explosive. Tackled at the 1-yard line. Where it happened to us way too much, way more than it should have. But again, gives you a great play. All right. Got it again here. All right. This is off of a lead outside zone scheme to the boundary. Okay. Putting a gap showing up right in front of this boundary safety space, running out off of an outside zone to the boundary scheme, which is a scheme we like that week. We just married it up. Get enough pull here to get behind him. So again, we have the ability to have box numbered reliefs. We also have the ability to call play action pass, and it's really hard for a defense or a defensive coordinator when we are running this play a lot this week. This was a top run for us in this game plan, so it just married up really good. Another explosive play. So I'm hoping that, those are two schemes off of it. Again, I'd like to open this up for any questions. I know it's a little bit hard when you can't just raise your hand, but if anything comes up, we'd like to allow that to happen for you. Again, I can't stress enough from those opening slides, the ability to marry it up with your top run week to week in game planning, the ability to have protection and get to your top reads off of it is some of the reasons why we have stuck to this plan a little bit. And then it's also easier to kind of to grade your quarterbacks is what I would say. So that's something that makes it good for us. So just looking at some of the questions that are popping up. The question says, Coach, if you call a relief, is the cue just catching and throwing, or do you give a key to the running back to cancel the mesh? So that's a good question. We won't cancel the mesh unless he's in pistol. So frequently, we have footwork to get it done. And if he is in pistol, we would cancel the mesh just because if there's a midline situation or something where we have to clear the midline, we would cancel it. But if we are throwing a relief, we would just let it ride at that point. We have footwork in the quarterback room to hopefully avoid the mesh at that point. So I don't know if anybody else. Sounds like somebody's got still a little bit committed to that deal, and that's a good deal. Next question is on your play action. Are you running set routes, or are you giving wide receivers option rules? So it depends a little bit. We try to not have as many option rules. That's one of the things in the air raid that we've gotten to. I guess, we have one upcoming in the second session, but we're not going to give too many options. Occasionally, angle of departure has a lot to do with it. Like that switch vert concept that we saw is going to get shut down, regardless of what the defense does. And it's at that point, it's just progressional at that point. Occasionally we'll have angle of departure based off of safeties, but we try to dictate to them a little bit about their routes.
Coaches, if you got questions, don't forget that Q&A button's right down there at the bottom of your screen, right in the middle. And we're leaving it open for that Q&A right now. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask Coach, type them in, and we'll answer them live as he has been right now.
Yeah, I got another one. So what dictates whether you're calling runs with releases versus play action? Yeah, so we're going to go into it week to week with an understanding of when we want run and when we want pass. So I think for us, I addressed it. There's so many times where you call an RPO and then you look at the end zone and there's an explosive. So we're calling pass, and what we like is pass downs. It's something that you're not going to call one of these play action passes on 3rd and 38 because there's not a real threat of run. But we try to marry it up the best we can off of our things that we like in certain run areas, but calling pass to call pass, call and run to run the ball. So the next one that comes up is best red zone play action. Yeah, so we got a couple off of it. Again, I think you saw on there that's everybody's favorite little bender snag deal. Is a good one down there. We scored on that on the clips that I showed you. We also like anything. You get super tight, if I'm being honest, Gregory. It's that we think that we can take a little bit more shots in those situations, even on the 3-4 yard line, while still having run, because there's not as much of a threat of ineligible downfield due to what the defense is aligned in. So that would be the biggest thing. We will occasionally have some downfield, and again, we're talking on the 3-4 yard line. We'll have some downfield RPOs in that world because there's less fear of what's in. And then pivot's really good down there. That was recommended by you, and pivot's really good too. Again, what you're getting is that strong linebacker flow regardless to put it behind their ear, and that's been really good for us too. Definitely good.
All right, Coach, with your run game, how many run game concepts do you go into each game with?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of it's going to depend on what our top personnel is, what we like going into that week. We make a lot of decisions off of personnel. So we want to put the best players on the field. So depending on injury reports, whatever it is, we want to have our best 5 skill guys out there. I would say in terms of schemes, 4 to 5 and then a bunch of formational differences along the way. So we're going to have all kinds of formational changes, a bunch of different ways to motion and formation out of it. We really do want to be simplistic to the guys and then mix up a bunch of formations and motions to make it a little bit more confusing on defenses with our guys not really knowing the difference.
Absolutely. And then what's the average depth of your play action game? Do you try to get vertical all the time, or do you keep it close because of the pulling guards and linemen?
Yeah, so those are 2 quick examples. Obviously, we have other route concepts off of it. We have had some success with big posts. I think it does. I would feel a little bit better with downfield throws off of zone schemes if I'm going to play action off of it, just because people aren't really flying out of gaps and things like that, sort of like you mentioned. But the gap schemes, we're going to try to be somewhat intermediate depending on the scheme and how many pullers we got and all that. With the zone schemes, we would take it a little bit further down the field. But again, it's important to note, who are you trying to attack? If you're throwing, if you don't think that field safety is going to be in the fit because, there's a nickel Sam in the way and he's a closer fitter, or, you think that they're trapping the corner quite a bit, whatever it may be, you do want to make sure that you're attacking and getting the flow that you would want to the people that you're trying to affect. So, if I'm trying to, like the outside zone scheme, we were trying to get the boundary safety in the fit, so we wanted to throw some in front of his face. If you're going to try to throw the ball down the field, you're not going to get as much pull on the field safety, so you don't need that exotic pull. Those zone schemes are great for that regardless. Just got another question that popped up. It said, how could I get our guys to film you? Junior. Yeah. So, all right. So that's a good deal. So all my contact information is right there. I think that screen is still sharing. Twitter is the best way, if I'm being honest. I do the best I can to get through that wherever possible. Gregory, I appreciate you kind of jumping in here. I'll remember that name, and if it pops up, I'll try to hit you back. It's under Rick Bowie 2. That's me on Twitter. I'll do the best I can to get to that, and look forward to trying to evaluate, all your guys. It's an important part for us. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I got one more question for you. How do you tell your quarterbacks how to read the box? What are they making that decision on based off of whether they're going to go with the relief or the release or the run game?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's two big things. So obviously box number is the easiest one, okay? But certainly there's some schemes will be more comfortable. Again, so who is the unblocked defender is big. Again, a lot of that's who we're targeting up front, which is a decision that's made as well. If we're running directly into the unblocked defender, then we need to throw the relief or we need to change the play. So that's obviously pretty straightforward. And then the next thing I'd say is we have to decide on whether we think that guy's going to make the play. So if there's a true run in 4-3 defense and you're in 11 personnel and you're handing off split zone, there's a high likelihood that guy's going to make the play and we need to get out of it. Frequently, if you're running a gap scheme, like let's say to the boundary and that Sam is on the edge of the box and you're running gap scheme away, there was a clip on there that you saw where we just didn't think that defender was going to make the play. For one, he's got a long way to go, but two, with down blocks and gap schemes getting over the top, he's got a long way to go. You say he's got to run the wave to get over top of that. We feel comfortable handing that ball off. So again, it depends a little bit on what the run scheme is, where the unblocked defender is. Should we block a different defender and leave a different guy because we're targeted incorrectly? Those are questions that would lead to that, all of which the quarterback's in control of. We put a lot on his plate.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer, Coach. Why don't we go ahead and transition to the next slide here, or the next presentation, I mean.
Sure.
And thank you again for the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.